What is going on, beautiful people of the world? Happy 12 days of gratitude. If you don't know what I'm talking about, this is my favorite time of the year. The Thrive Forever Fit podcast turns into the 12 days of gratitude series, this time every single year. So from the 13th of December all the way through December the 24th, Christmas Eve, I will be launching a brand new episode with a special guest talking about the powers and awesomeness of gratitude. So make sure you tune in. Make sure you listen to all 12 episodes. I promise you, they will be amazing. They will be awesome. And I want to wish you a very Merry Christmas, an abundant holiday season. Whatever you're into, be into it. I'm into it with you. Love you. Enjoy the series. Here we go. LeAnn, what's going on?
Not a lot. How are you?
I am doing awesome. So guys, I'm going to let LeAnn tell a little bit of the story about who she is and why she's here. But just to give you guys a little bit of a snapshot, LeAnn and I are from the same hometown. I don't even know how much younger you are than me. I'm horrible with ages and things like that. But LeAnn and I are from the same hometown. I've known her probably the majority of her life, and she's probably known me or some version of me for the majority of my life. But we've recently, probably over the last maybe 4 years, like connected on, on FaceSpace and just had a relationship there. And the reason I wanted to have her on is because her story is unbelievable. I'm grateful for her. And I know she has an amazing, life to be grateful for. But LeAnn, so what's our age difference? Do you even know like how far apart we are?
So I think you turned 47?
I did.
Recently. So I'm 41.
Okay. So I graduated in 93. What did you graduate?
98.
Okay. For some reason, I thought we were closer than that.
Well, it's either my striking good looks that are young looks or yours. I mean,
let's say
both.
Either
way.
Let's say both. Let's just say we're both crushing it. Like
we're both aging very well. I think.
Absolutely. Life is amazing. So we both grew up in this tiny little town called Cisco, Texas. I remember it being like, I want to say 4,000-ish people at one point. I don't know what it is today or what it is. Now, LeAnn, you're still close to there? You're in Marble Falls?
Falls. I'm not too far from there, about 120 miles.
Okay. Now, have you been back? I haven't been back to Cisco in, I would say 40, it could be 30 years. So maybe 20, 25 years.
Right. It's been a while. Okay. I haven't been back in probably 10 years or so.
Yeah. So for you guys that don't know, I'll paint the picture of it. It's like a one stoplight town. Our two fine dining restaurants were Dairy Queen and Sonic. It was about as tiny as you could imagine growing up, but a great little awesome town. So we'll fast forward to where you are now, LeAnn. You've gone through, and the whole purpose of this gratitude series is to talk about like just how important gratitude is to all of our lives, and then how you necessarily use it for just to keep yourself going. For me, it's like one of my pillars of everyday life. Every day I get up every morning, I say thank you for being alive, and I list out several things I'm grateful for. What does gratitude mean to you, just in its most simplistic form? Like, how do you think about it when you think about that word?
So gratitude to me, kind of in the same sense that you do think of it, it's your ticket to being here every day.
I love that.
It's my reasoning that I get up, I open my eyes every day, and that's what I'm most thankful for. I've had a pretty significant life event that in 2018, so over the last 3 years, I've really resonated with being alive, because in a short time, your life can change significantly.
Let's talk about that for a sec, everything. If you're cool. If you're cool talking about that, will you kind of tell everybody what you went through?
Yeah, most definitely. So in August of 2018, I had spent a Saturday out on the lake, hanging out on the lake, fishing, hanging out in the sun, and then on a Sunday, very next Sunday morning at 5 a.m., I suffered an ischemic stroke. Luckily, I had someone with me that dialed 911 immediately, and but I had some pretty significant deficits from it. Had left side paresis, so which is still to this day. I have no feelings to pain, hot or cold on my left side. I couldn't walk, couldn't talk. I was in the hospital for several weeks and then left there and went to a rehab hospital to learn to talk and walk and, do my own daily personal things, get myself dressed, get myself in and out of the shower, fix myself something to eat. So it was a learning process, but that's part of why I'm so thankful for where I am today, because you take for granted those simple little daily tasks that you can do until you can't do them anymore. And so
you were like 37, 38 years old at that time.
38, yeah.
Yeah, no,
38 years old.
We don't think about 38-year-olds having like an event like that, you know what I mean?
Exactly. And I'm a real advocate too for, strokes don't discriminate. I mean, I was in a CrossFit class that I was attending 4 and 5 days a week. I was eating very healthy. I was running a 5K a day. I mean, I was in probably the best shape of my life, and I had really no underlying issues. And it just so happened, which mine was from a chiropractic, issue. It wasn't from anything that my body did to itself, so to say. But yeah, strokes don't discriminate.
Do they know why it happened, LeAnn? Do they know how it manifested itself?
Yeah, so I have, for whatever reasons, I have really small arteries, which I've gone through a lot of genetic testing and such, and they have no idea why. But yeah, all the arteries in my body, I mean, from head to toe are very small and narrow, and very thin. So just going to the chiropractor, that, manipulation to my neck, that's what caused the tear in the artery.
Oh, okay. Now that wasn't an isolated event. You've had a couple of other events since then.
I have. So I've had one other stroke, and then what they call a TIA, which it mimics a stroke, because once you've had a stroke, it's not uncommon for you to have multiple strokes or TIA, mini TIAs, so they call them. But it's also due that my right carotid has never fully healed. It's been stable, but it's not healed, and it's got an aneurysm in there as well. So the blood flow is not exactly what they'd like it to be. I have a lot of restrictions, but as long as I follow those restrictions and still live life to the fullest, and I'm good with it.
So just for you guys that aren't, medically versed, the TIA means trans ischemic attack. And so it's kind of like a mini stroke or I guess that's about the easiest way in layman's terms.
Right. Yeah. It just kind of mimics everything of a stroke, but in smaller.
Not to the severity of an actual stroke.
Right.
So it's even, holy crap. First of all, you got to be grateful to be here, right? Because that could have been way more catastrophic than it was. And so I think that's probably, let me ask you a question. Did that change your perspective or view on the fragility or how precious life is?
Oh, most definitely. I mean, I went from, not a care in the world the day prior to that next morning, going into an ER, and they're saying, well, we think you've had a stroke. And of course, me looking at them all mind boggled, like, I'm 38. I'm young. I'm in shape. I'm active. No, I didn't have a stroke. What are you talking about? And so it really made me, not take life so much for granted, that things can change, so quickly.
Absolutely. And since that, you've had some pretty awesome things happen in your life as well. I mean, you've gotten married, this amazing relationship. Guy seems like a great dude. I mean, you got a lot going for you. So I think, you didn't let this event like ruin your life or become catastrophic, and you didn't stop living. And so I applaud you for that. That's one of the reasons I wanted to have you on, is because I feel like you've gone through something at such a young age that like a lot of people give up, or they start to look at life as a bad thing, or like bad things happen to me. And I think you've maybe taken the other approach and said, listen, while I'm here, I'm going to just max this thing out. And so how did you, talk to me about that.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, how did you focus and do that? Yeah, it's crazy.
So when I was in the hospital, of course, I got admitted here in Marble Falls, and then they transferred me to Temple. And even when I was over there, the nurses were like, how are you're smiling, you're happy, you're not giving us any fits. You know, they say how they're, you know, most of their, excuse me, other stroke patients on the floor are just groggy and why me and I hate
Yeah.
myself and this is stupid. And I was like, well, you know, it could have been worse. I mean, it could have been worse. You
Yeah.
know, I can wobble myself when I need to get up to the restroom. I can still, hey, I can eat pudding. So, you know, it could have been worse. And I kept laughter into it. And really, Guy kept telling me laughter is the best medicine. And I thought, man, that's so cliche, but it literally, like, everything we talked about, it made us laugh, whether it was funny or not.
Right.
I mean, as much as like we would realize that we were laughing and giggling and telling jokes, and my call button happened to have been pushed, and we heard the nurses laugh on the other end, and we were like, oh, I was like, I wonder just how much they listen to us. Well, one of the nurses actually said, we actually listen in on your room when we need to laugh. So
Yeah.
like,
That's
I
awesome.
kept the laughter, and then even moving to the rehab hospital, I was only there, well, day 2 when I was there. I got asked to join one of the support groups to talk to some of those that were having a really hard time. Some were young, some were, you know, in their late 50s, 60s. There was even a gentleman in there that was 91 years old, and everyone was just, their self-esteem had dropped. They didn't want to eat. They didn't want
Yeah.
to, you know, do the physical therapies. And they had asked me just to join the group, just to talk to everyone. And by the time I left rehab, that one support group had turned like a complete circle. I
That's
mean,
awesome.
everybody was, you know, joyful and laughing, and we all shared ice cream every day. And I mean, it was something for them to also recognize that, hey, you know, with the adversity that you're facing, you're looking at head on with a smile on your face.
That's so
And it
awesome.
really was, because I could see in rehab too, because it was a stroke. I was on the stroke floor. So everyone on that floor of the hospital had a stroke. And I could see, like, it could have been way worse. So I was
Yeah.
very thankful and could see that, you know, right in front of my face, that I needed to be thankful for where I was at. I also needed to be thankful for where I was going too.
Yeah. You know what? Happy people are healthier people. Let me ask you this. Have you always had that disposition? Have you always been like a little bit happier than the average bear? Like, have you always tried to see the bright side of
I
things?
have, yes.
Okay.
I have.
I mean,
I have always.
that could have been so different if you had a different mindset going into that, right? Like if you were one of
Oh,
those, like,
absolutely.
yeah, woe is me people, like I can't believe this happened, like my life is ruined and this is awful, versus how you decided to look at it. I mean, you know, obviously I can't prove this, but my brain tells me that has a lot to do with your recovery and your success after going through all the things, and even the other little things that you've gone through since then.
Mhm.
That's so
I
awesome.
agree.
I love that. And I love how they brought you in. See, I think we're put in positions a lot of times to do things that we don't even know why we're there to do them. You know, there was a reason that you were, sent to that place to be with those people, to be the quote unquote leader of that group,
Right.
so that you could help change those people's lives. Because I would guarantee you in every hospital across America, there's a group like that maybe didn't have that same dynamic, that had kind of a more of a lesser or a negative energy, and they probably left that hospital in a different place and space than the people that you were surrounded with did.
Yes, I
That's
agree.
that's cool. Now you're into health and fitness. I see you and Guy are posting almost every single day about your workouts. You're sweating together. You're living life together. You're having fun together. Like, how big of a role does that play in your recovery, and now just in your overall general life?
Yeah, it played a huge role, because with my left side still with no pain or no sensations to pain, hot or cold, the most important thing is to keep moving, so that you don't get what they call the dead shoulder. Even my hip could go, my hip socket could freeze up, or whatever the case may be. So it means a lot that he is there, which he supported me from day one. But it means a lot that I have someone to do those things with me. And whereas I have, a lot of restrictions, like I can't, lift heavy weights. My lifting restriction is 10 pounds, but
Yeah.
he's like, okay, so that means we can pick up a 10-pound dumbbell. So that's what we pick up. I mean, that's what we do.
Right.
You know, and they have me limited to no jogging right now. So he's like, that's fine. We walk. I mean, it means a lot to have someone that's super supportive, that, like you talk about your circle of success, and that's the people I put in. I put the people in my circle that contributes and doesn't take away things, you know.
I love that. I mean, listen, I think, you know, when we have somebody like Guy, or like, you know, I'm lucky enough to have Lori to get to experience life with, it does change the dynamic, right? It is so much more enjoyable to like do those things with someone who loves you and that you love. And it increases, you know, if we take it back to the gratitude piece, I mean, you've got to be grateful for him, and he's got to be grateful for you. And then the life that you guys get to create together is really built on, you know, on gratitude and on love and on all those things. I think that's just super awesome.
Yes.
That's so cool. Well, all right. So let's touch on gratitude just a little bit more before we let you get on with your day. Obviously, we're grateful you're here. We're grateful you've overcome all the things you've overcome. What would you say, like, because there's got to be tough days, right? There's got to be some of those days where it's like, okay, yes, I'm grateful. Yes, I'm thankful. This sucks. You know what I mean? So, right. I mean, listen, you're human. I'm human. We all are. Right. So what do you do on those days to get yourself out of that, like, whoa, you know, that kind of that negative space and back into that place of like, hey, you know what? I'm still here. I've still got an opportunity. What do you do? What are your strategies and tools?
Right. Yeah. So a lot of times it hits me on the treadmill, especially because the treadmill has that speed button where I'm just like, I can run. I can just run, you know, until I think about, well, what if I'm running and something happens and I have to explain to my doctor, well, what were you doing when that happened? It's like, maybe I shouldn't do that. But it's like, I could walk, I could speed up my walk or my pace, you know, a little faster there. And sometimes when I'm in the kitchen too, like with knives and things, I tend to cut myself because I can't really feel, you know, my left hand or whatever. But and then I'm like, oh man, just think if I had feeling. But then I think if the stroke took all my, you know, movement away, like what if I couldn't be in the kitchen at all, or what if I couldn't be on the treadmill at all? What if I was still, you know, confined to a wheelchair, because I was in a wheelchair for a while, you know, what if all those things? So it's like, wait a minute, you are far beyond that. You're way past that. So no more of that woe is me thinking. It's move on. And that's kind of my motivation, is to move on. Even with career wise and everything I do, it's like I'm always striving for that little step higher. So that's how I get myself through the tough days, is that there's always something better to strive for. So we don't go backwards, we always move forward.
I love that. I mean, and listen, I think a lot of the reasons you're able to do that is because of your just happy disposition. And because you do, you know, you look at life as happening for you and not to you, and all, you know, all the things we talk about. You're a regular listener of the podcast, so you know I'm a big advocate of, you know, positive mindset. Let's keep moving forward. We can be, do, and have anything we want, you know, all of that stuff. So what resources do you use? Like, what do you do? Because I mean, for me, you know, I consistently want to surround myself with positivity, and I want to be around people like you that have a disposition around that. So how do you handle, because I think this is a great question, and not just because I'm asking it, because what do you do when you are in a position where the energy is not necessarily positive, or the energy is not necessarily to the level of where LeAnn would want it to be?
Right.
What do you do?
Yeah. So, well, there's a few things, and I can thank you for most of them, because not too long after my stroke is when the purpose of pain came out. So that book, in fact, is right here on my bookshelf. So it comes off the shelf, and just flip and read, or just start from the beginning and just read till, you know, I'm in that zone of like, okay, now I'm all settled down. Another thing too is I am part of a couple of stroke groups, and that's where I go to to read positivity. Same thing with the Wellness Lab Launchpad, same thing with another Snell tribe that I'm
Yeah.
part of. Like I can go there and read nothing but positivity. You're not going to see anything negative in those groups. So for me, that's a good source to go to, is people I've connected with, people that have inspired me, people that I know, as you do, you live life to the fullest. You always strive to see the good in everything, to have a positive attitude. And so that's where I go. I go to things that I know are gonna put me in the space I need, my head in the space
Yeah.
that it needs to be.
You're so smart. I mean, listen, that's what we should all be doing, right? It's like, I think it sounds so simple, but I think it's, it's easy for people to get distracted and to get bogged down by negativity. And so I love that you have trained yourself, and I'm the same exact way. And when I say trained yourself, I don't mean that in a negative way. I've had to train myself to, whenever anything seems more than I can quote unquote handle, I have to know the places and spaces I need to put myself into that reframe my brain. And so you're so smart for teaching yourself and training yourself and programming yourself to do that, as opposed to allowing the negativity to build and grow. And so for anybody who's listening, your circumstances may be different than LeAnn's, maybe worse, maybe better, maybe the same, maybe whatever, but you can make a decision and you can make a choice to find those groups of humans that aren't going to be negative, that do want positivity, regardless of what they've all gone through or what they're going through currently. So I think that's an amazing, amazing thing. This is one of the reasons I wanted to have you on the show. I think, I can sit here and preach and teach all day long about, let's just be happy and let's be grateful and let's be all that. And I think a lot of people may look at me and say, well, that can't be real, right? He can't really believe that, but I honestly do. And so I want people to hear from people like you who, have kind of a similar mindset around, life is to be lived regardless of what, it gets thrown at us. Like we've got an opportunity to make decisions to move forward. So last question, I know you're uber grateful. I know you're so thankful and all those things, but, when we talk about gratitude and all, and the way we use it, to make ourselves, live these fulfilled lives, like, what do you have, because you talked about moving forward and growing and evolving, like, what's the next phase of life for you? Like, what are you grateful for the opportunity to get to take on?
So I'm really grateful for the opportunity. In January, I'm going back to school, I'm going back to college. And that's
awesome.
It goes hand in hand with my new career, because there's so much advancement with going into the healthcare system that, I mean, the possibilities really are endless. Yeah. And even when I took on this job, my one of the women interviewing me, she said the same thing. She said the possibilities are endless with us, and I thought, hence why I'm here. Right. So that's and you're never too old, you're never too anything to do whatever you want. So I don't look at the fact that, hey, I'm 41, why am I going to college or back to college now? But it's something I want to do. It's something I want to accomplish, and I'm going to do it.
I love that. That's cool. So you're going back to school. You got a brand new job. You got the endless possibilities. I want you guys to pay attention to LeAnn's language, right? It's like endless possibilities, right? Opportunity to go back to school. It's like that's why she is able to sit here with a smile on her face after going through, at 38 years old, what changed her life forever. But she's chosen to use that as a propeller instead of an anchor. And so I love your language. I love that you're excited about life, and who cares if you're 41 or 14, like you can, you know what I mean? You can be, do, and have anything you want. And I think that's amazing that you're going to take advantage of an endless opportunity. And I think with what you've gone through, you're going to be so much, I was going to say better than, but this is going to be great for you. And it's going to be great for those people that you get the opportunity to touch, because you've got a perspective around medicine and healthcare and challenges and adversities that some people just don't have. And so I think you're going to be beautiful at that.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you for coming on, bud. I appreciate you.
Hey, thank you for having me. I'm
absolutely
super stoked.
Absolutely. You give Guy a hug and a high five for me. Tell him I love him. I appreciate him doing
I sure will.
and being your support system. But I love you guys. You guys are. I've told you this before, just so people don't think I'm BS. And LeAnn will shake your head. You guys inspire me. Like I'm inspired by what you guys are doing on a daily basis and how you show up for each other and just how you're showing up in life. I think it's super inspiring. So I want to thank you for inspiring me to be better.
Oh, you're very, very welcome. We get it from the best.
All right, bud. I'll see you soon.
All right. Thanks
All
so
right.
much.
Bye.
Bye.